From CBS 47 and Fox 30, it's time for This Week in the 904.
Good morning. Welcome to This Week in the 904. I'm your host, Emily Turner. This is a community affairs show, and it focuses on politics, public policy, and the issues that affect our local communities. And joining us today is Tim Forson. You are the superintendent, outgoing superintendent for St. Johns County Public Schools. First, thank you for your time. And for you, I mean, you have been with St. Johns County Public Schools for 40 years.
Yeah, actually 45 years I'm ending this year. So yeah, I came out of college, was a teacher and a coach, and just been blessed to be a part of a system that I've been able to spend my entire career in.
Most superintendents can't say that because when they open up searches, it's, national now. Having moved up through the ranks within just that one district, how has that afforded you, a perspective of what St. Johns County needs?
Well, I think what it's done is given me, because I'm born and raised in St. Johns County, so I've known it from going through the school system and moving forward. And so I think it's just given me the benefit of knowing what the needs are and what the changes are that are on the horizon. It was when I began teaching in 1980, and there were two high schools. One was Hastings High School, the other St. Augustine. Nice High School was not even built at that time. So we've gone from that to 8 comprehensive high schools we have today. So a lot of growth, a lot of change over the time. And being able to be from here, I've been able to have a little more intimate understanding of what is happening in the communities.
It really makes it personal.
It does. It does.
And I'm born and raised here too, and I just remember, in my time, St. Johns County, it used to be there was nothing on Phillips Highway between Jacksonville and St. Augustine, and now there has been so much growth. I mean, in your time, what have you seen and experienced with just the explosion of population?
Yeah, I think that's the primary piece of it is so much growth that we've gotten really good at constructing schools and getting them on time and living in schedules. But what that doesn't talk about new communities developing that don't have history, don't have tradition. So it's really important in our system that we have high quality principals that can build that culture from the very beginning. We've seen that. We opened 2 schools this year. The district will open 1 in the coming school year and then 2 more in the following. So it's nonstop. It's just a pattern that we live by, and we understand in our world of hiring, we're constantly hiring folks and building that new tradition and that new culture in some communities where we certainly have a long-standing tradition in some of our other schools and some other areas of the county.
I know. I feel like northern St. Johns County is a community of subdivisions and cul-de-sacs, and then it's not that city-centric community. When you talk about growth and all of these subdivisions how do you even keep up? Because it's like the houses are flying up faster than you can even plan through city government.
Well, and it is. You have to have a mechanism by which you can fund the construction of schools. And we are fortunate in St. Johns County because we have several paths by which we can create that revenue. But what sometimes people don't understand, the revenue doesn't come until the families are already there. The property values don't go, the taxes don't get collected. The revenue that you need is going to always be after the students are there. So when we're building schools right now, we're building for students that are already in our system. And so that's just one of the challenges of it. The other challenge is, as you stated earlier, some of these communities are completely new. And so they're families largely from out of state. And so trying to bring them together and understanding how public education works in Florida, how in St. Johns County we work hard to do things, have great pride in what we provide as an educational institution. So that's work to be done. There's education that has to be done to the adults and to the community as well.
And when you talk about growth and planning for that, is this a conversation you sit down with like planning and zoning and you're like, okay, where are these houses going to go and when, and then do we preemptively put a school there? What is the process for that? So it's strategic.
It works because we have a good relationship with our county government, who, all of those projects are approved through the Board of County Commissioners. And so the staff at the county work closely with us on when a project is coming forward. Those developers and those project managers come forward to the school district as well. So we ensure that there's a process and an expectation to say if this development is coming forward with 1,000 houses, we can project how many students we think that's going to produce and how that might impact schools in one way or another. Sometimes it's a new school construction. Sometimes it might just be an addition to an existing school.
When it comes to the numbers, I mean, for folks who anecdotally know St. Johns County is a popular school district, what kind of growth have you seen when it comes to numbers?
Yeah, I mean, when just from the time I became superintendent in January of 2017, and we were at about 36,000 students then, and today we're bordering on 53,000. And when I started, if you go way back, if you go back to the time in the 80s, the school district was 12,000 students across the entire county. So I hate to say it, but we honestly have almost that many students in portable classrooms and relocatable classrooms as we're still building and still bringing schools online.
Oh my gosh. Well, there is so much more to talk about when it comes to growth, exactly where that's going, what you're doing, and as well as breaking down the successes from your 40-year career. So we will be right back after this. Stick around.
From CBS 47 and Fox 30, you're watching This Week in the 904.
Welcome back to This Week in the 904. I'm your host, Emily Turner. Tim Forson from St. Johns County Public Schools joining us today. We were talking a little bit about the challenges you have with growth, and we kind of got to portables, and you said there's more than you'd like in portables.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think it's one of those transitional things you have to do in a system that's growing rapidly. So we lease portable classrooms because if you buy them, they become your standard. Then you become a district full of portables, and you don't have that ability to have new construction. So we lease them, but right now we have over 500 portable classrooms across the district. Well, that's an equivalent of probably 11 or 12 schools. So it's not perfect, but we work real hard. All the same technology is in those portable classrooms. We make sure from a safety and security standpoint, their location and the fencing and all the other things are there. But it is part of what you do in a system that's growing rapidly. You place portables because when you think about growing, if we grew by 1,500 students in 1 year, which is fairly typical, they don't happen all at one school. They're spread throughout the district. So you have to kind of deal with moderate growth at multiple schools until you get to a point that you can build a new school, remove those portables, and then have what you want in the long term for the children.
And one of the other challenges is personnel. I mean, as there are more and more people coming to these schools, you've got to have the teachers and the support and the paraprofessionals. What has that experience been like? Yeah,
and that's changed dramatically. I could go back to days in which I've been an elementary principal, a high school principal, that really the hiring was occurring during the summer. And I knew that when I got hired up July or August that we were set to go and we'd get through a year. But in our human resources department today, we are hiring 12 months out of the year. We are constantly hiring, looking for the right people, growing as a system, so you can't let your guard down, and because the depth of applicants is not what it once was. I mean, we work hard. We have 4 academies in our high schools that are teaching academies, so we're trying to grow our own and have our own take on that profession. But there's also so much opportunity for kids today that you're your own worst enemy in some ways, because we have many academies on engineering and marketing and things of that nature. So we try to do the very best we can and know that it's a 12-month job, where at one time it had peaks and valleys during the year. How
do you compete with every school district I think has this problem facing teacher shortages. How do you compete to make sure that you get the best?
Well, I think one of our benefits have been, and it's not my work, but it's been a high-performing school district for a number of times. And that really speaks to a lot of the families that are dedicated to education, and it's important that their children are well educated. So that kind of feeds itself, is that you have that growth that are similar kinds of families that come in. So that helps us when we go to hire, that we have we have great kids and great schools. The other piece is a huge thank you out to all the voters of St. Johns County who a year ago passed a 1 mil increase that will, for the coming year, increase salaries of all employees of the school district. So that's a great benefit as well.
How does that stack you guys up comparatively in the state?
Yeah, it's hard to do it. People always want to make that comparison about, well, what's your average salary compared to other districts? One of the challenges we have when we compare average is we have about 3,800 teachers right now. About half of them have been with us less than 5 years. So when a lot of them are in their early careers or they're coming from other places. So when you average it out, it's not as high as some of our neighbors. But when you really look at the opportunity to earn a salary, the opportunity to advance in the system for those that do, it is there, and it's very comparable. The starting salary in Florida is close in almost every district. The law that passed 4 years ago now that every teacher would earn at least $47,500 a year is a point that has pushed a lot of districts to that level. Upwards maybe to 50,000 starts. So that we're all really close in that number.
And when it comes to probably the most high-profile position, your replacement, a new superintendent, what are some of the challenges that person is going to have to tackle and face moving forward?
Yeah, I think there are several. One I would say is we're in a really good place, and I again, I have to go back to the community. We have as many business partners and volunteers in our schools as any schools in the state of Florida. I would put us up against any. So we have a great community support, but it's going to continue to be a challenge to hire and bring in educators and those related fields in a public entity when we know the opportunity to earn more in other fields is always there. So I think the hiring's not going to go away. As long as we keep growing, we're going to keep facing that challenge to hire the best and make sure that we have the right adults in front of children each and every day.
Do you think you'll ever get to a point where that growth stops?
Yeah, absolutely. You'll get to a point where you start, and we've seen it in the last couple of years, and this is really, we're still growing rapidly, but kind of the rules have changed to education in Florida. And when 2 years ago, when the legislation came forward that said that any parent at any time can go get a scholarship, a voucher, and educate through home ed, through private school, through any way in which it was a legitimate way of educating their child, we've seen a little slowdown in our growth, and so we know that parents are making that decision. What you don't know is, will that sustain itself? Will you see some of those families return? Because they're here, they're in the area, and so you just have to be able to work hard to make sure that you're ready.
Well, you brought up the legislature, and when we come back from break, we're going to talk about that, the politics of what public education has become. So stick around, we'll be right back.
From CBS 47 and Fox 30, you're watching This Week in the 904.
Welcome back to This Week in the 904. I'm your host, Emily Turner. Our guest, Tim Forson, outgoing superintendent for St. Johns County Public Schools. We talked a little bit about the legislature, but public school education has become so politicized in the last few years. First, why? And then why do you think that is?
Well, I think why is probably school boards and public education are easy places to grab emotion and to target in that sense, because we've seen that in so many different ways. Is if there is a way in which you want to politicize an organization or an environment, when you look at the lives of children, there's no more emotional way to do that than say, okay, what are you doing for and with my child, my son or daughter? And so that's probably the first part. I think the other part of it is just that there's strong political will in today's environment. There's clearly divisiveness, folks on far right, far left, and so our work as a school district has been really, mine and our board as well, it's about the 52,000 kids. It's really not about being a Republican, being a Democrat, or being anywhere in between. It's about making decisions that are right for children. However, when you make decisions, there are assumptions that often get made to say, well, you're doing it because of something political. So as long as I feel like we stick to our mission, and it's about doing what's best for children, we're going to be okay. It's not to say that as a superintendent, you don't get attacked on both sides from time to time, wanting you to not be just about kids, but to be about political values and wills.
When do you think this all started, or where did this begin?
I think in most areas, and in Florida, it became very evident quickly through COVID. And so certainly definitive decisions that were made in the state of Florida regarding COVID and how you handle it and how do you work with it, and immediately attracted attention. And so not wrong or right. I mean, if we all thought we were really right at the beginning, that's not being honest. It was something that everyone was trying to do the very best, and what that was varied from place to place, but it all of a sudden became a political kind of pawn in that, and then it led itself to coming out of the pandemic where there was a will to impact school boards, to impact superintendents. There was a huge turnover in superintendents across the state of Florida following, because it was an exhausting time. I would tell you, it was an exhausting time period.
And so people just were like, well, we're done, we're out of here?
Yeah, I think just the fact that, as I said earlier, you were always wrong. Didn't matter what your decision was. There was always to the displeasure of a very vocal group. And I get it, I understand it, because there was frustration, there was pent-up time period where, as a school system, our teachers were exhausted too. They were teaching children in their classroom and online. It was not sustainable in the way that it was. And so we saw every flaw and gap that we might have had in our system, worked hard to recover that and do our very best. The teachers that taught through COVID are heroes. They are stars because they worked through a very tough time.
And I mean, we've seen since there was the mask issue, vaccinations have become a thing, LGBTQ, book bans, what else am I missing? I mean, I feel like now it's like one thing after the other. How do you navigate that? I mean, what are the conversations you have with these parents?
Well, I think the first thing is we're a public education system in the state of Florida. So whatever the law says, that's what we do. That's what we should do. I doubt if any of us agree with every statute that is written, but that's what I'm called on to do, is to follow the law. And so that's the first piece we do, is we do that. Now, as soon as you follow the law in some of those very volatile kinds of topics, it ignites emotions from people. Books. What are the right books that belong in media centers, belong in schools? And the reality is that became something, and has continued to be. We still have objections that we're working through and will continue to work through. And that's okay. I think what it did, it brought a little greater accountability to school systems and understanding of what is in the school library. I would tell you, I've read more young adult books since that happened than I ever read as a young adult. And sometimes it is startling to say, okay, that shouldn't be there. And so we've had to work through that. But then just the topic is being used to say that you're trying to hurt or harm, and that's never ever the case. The reality is, if you see the new legislation about cell phones are a quick path to terrible exposure to kids. Awful. And so that's the place that kids are going to go if they're looking for something that is not there for them. Shouldn't be there for them.
No, I agree. I feel the same way about it with little kids myself. When it comes to some of the laws that have passed in, like, let's say, the last 5 years, what has been the most challenging for you guys to implement?
Yeah, I think there are a number of things that have been challenging from time to time. One is it's kind of from a budget standpoint, but when the vouchers became universal across the state of Florida, one of the hardest things for school districts to do is to keep a handle on how many vouchers, because what happens, the money will come into the district and then it goes right back out. But in some cases we don't have or haven't had a mechanism to know who the student is. If they've never been with us, we have no record of it. It goes through a third party. So just managing and preparing for that has been a special challenge, I would say, in almost every district in Florida. That's one of the harder ones. Another one that is, it's challenging, but it's worth it. It is absolutely worth it, is as legislation changes every year on school safety and security, and it's good, and it's getting better. And I have a elementary child in the system right now, so there is no doubt I want it to be at its best. But it takes tweaking and improving from year to year, and sometimes that's at a big cost. It's not without cost to be able to implement some of the school safety and security changes that are coming about.
And the battle yet to be fought, to completion anyway, is about some of the funding that will affect AP and IB programs. Well, you've been to Tallahassee a couple of times on that.
I have, and I've been fairly vocal about it, because I do think that there's somewhat of a misconception, even by legislators that are voting on it, to say, well, if I use the model by which you receive money for advanced courses, such as AP, IB, ACE, those courses, CAPE, the CT, the career and technical courses, you're actually being funded at a rate you should easily be able to, because teachers get incentives for it, they get reward for success of those students. There are costs to it. You pay for the exams, you pay for a lot of things. But the general belief is, as that value has gone up, that really it's money that should go back into a more general allocation of dollars. And the truth of the matter is, if I thought that way, then if I looked at every area that I have that is underfunded, then I would only fund it to the level in which the dollar came. Transportation is a huge example of that. Transportation is funded at about 50% of the allocation that comes to each district. So if I use that thinking, then I couldn't do the other things I do. Those accelerated dollars helps prop and support middle and high schools so that they can provide the resources and grow the academies and the accelerated opportunities for kids.
I mean, we're talking, what, $7 million for St. John's County?
For St. John's, it's a potential $7 million loss.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you coming in, and I'm sure everyone can say that they appreciate all the time you spent with St. John's County Public Schools as well. Thank you for your time this morning and sticking around with us. We'll have another episode of This Week in the 904 next Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks for watching This Week in the 904.